love is at the heart of what I do, whether that be friendships, whether that be love for ourselves, love for others, family, whatever it is. I think everything is kind of comes back to the idea of love. And I think everyone can relate to that, right?
Hello, and welcome to the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. I'm Angela Nicholson, and I'm the founder of SheClicks, which is a community for female photographers. In these podcasts, I talk with women in the photographic industry to hear about their experiences, what drives them, and how they got to where they are now. This episode is with Laura Pannack, an award-winning photographic artist known for her intimate portraits and long-term documentary projects. Her work often explores youth, psychology and connection, with a strong focus on shooting on film. Hi Laura, thank you so much for joining me today on the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to have a chat.
Oh, thank you. Me too. So can we start by hearing how you first got into photography?
I guess it's kind of a strange question because my dad's a photographer. So I was in the darkroom when I was really, really young. I was like popped on a stool and I watched Tom and Jerry with a red filter on it as my dad was tipping trays in the darkroom. So from a very early age, I guess I was, no pun intended, exposed to photography. But actually, I didn't actually kind of take my first picture or really understand that I had a passion for it until I was about 21, about 20. I was doing fine art foundation at St Martin's. I was very much into painting and drawing at the time. I just used to always want to sketch human beings. I just found them very bizarre and fascinating. And then we sort of did short courses during our foundation. I picked up I think it was my dad gave me like a Pentax 35mm, maybe something like that. I shot a roll of black and white, and I was like, oh my god, this is so my thing. I don't know. It was like a drug. And then my teacher, who hated me, basically kind of sort of said, you've got a lot of talent and you should do this. And I was like, right, well, that's coming from somebody that doesn't like me. So, I'm going to believe you. And then I just became addicted, and I kind of just always wanted to be a war journalist. I always kind of just had this kind of dream of following, in the footsteps of all my kind of heroes, and then realised that actually I guess I didn't have the political or geographical kind of, I guess, intellect or knowledge and kind of experience to do that, and just fell into portraiture. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Was it like getting back on a bike? Could you remember how to process the film and create prints when you first started?
It was less of a kind of like, because I was so young when my dad was doing that, so he never actually taught me how to do it. But there was a lot of nostalgia, and in particular, like the smell of Dev and Fix. And I actually, as soon as I got into the darkroom at LCC, I became sort of like just very much, as I said, like addicted to seeing how quickly I could load the film on a spool. And it was really sweet, actually. I think it was about 10 years ago, somebody posted something on Twitter, and it was my old Dev tank. And I just put Pannack written on it, and I left it there. And I was like, oh my God, I remember those days. It was more of an ignited passion rather than a memory.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you go then from, discovering your love of photography around 21 to actually becoming a professional photographic artist?
It sounds bizarre, but I think I always worked as from a really young age. I had a paper round at age 10, and I was doing a lot of like telesales and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the people around me were very influential in that, like my best mate Danny at the time, and who was just this kind of young entrepreneur who was like sending emails age 9, and when the internet came in. And then my mum was always a complete grafter and always had like 4 or 5 different jobs at once. So I think this idea of kind of being an entrepreneur and kind of learning business was just naturally kind of, I guess, sort of gifted to me, and I put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. How do I make that reality? So I sort of started trying to think, well, how can I kind of get one step ahead? So I started assisting before I went to uni, things like that. I was like, how can I how can I learn as much as I possibly can in the time that I have. And then when I was at uni, the first year, it became really clear to me that like actually I needed to ask for help. So I would stay after hours and ask the technicians to teach me colour printing, and because I was like, I don't want to wait until my third year. So it was just very much that. And then that assisting was probably the main thing that really led me to kind of having a career. I was supported by people like Simon Roberts, and I did an internship at Hot Shoe, and Melissa DeWitt there was really just like supportive and introduced me to loads of people. And I just kept working on personal work. I was just shooting and shooting and shooting, and those introductions and those kind of connections just took a shine to my work. And it was kind of nice, because I guess I was a bit worried that it was about who I knew and all these connections, and that was what was going to kind of get me somewhere. But actually, like the first person that called me into their office, I think, was Monica Allende, and she was the editor of the Sunday Times. And I walked in and she said, "Oh, it's really nice to see you, Laura. I'm actually waiting for somebody." And I was like, "Oh, who are you waiting for?" She said, "Oh, this photographer called Laura." And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And she kind of hadn't put two and two together, which was really nice. And it was like, oh, this person that I get along with and have met through other people also likes my work. So that's a bonus. And it was, it's a very supportive community.
I think it is, yeah. And did she start commissioning you from then?
Yeah, I think the first person to commission me was actually Krishna from the Telegraph, and Andy Greenacre from the Telegraph. And then Monica as well, and Kate Edwards at the Guardian. So it was those editorials that really just like gave me they gave me an opportunity and a chance, and they saw, I was such a liability in terms of, I was just so nervous, and they'd give me a brief and it would be for a like stamp-sized portrait, and I'd call them about 50 times a day asking them questions about it. So I don't know how they maintained patience with me, but I think it's because they saw I really cared. I really just wanted to do a good job. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it was obvious that you cared, and were keen.
Yeah. I think that, which is nice, but it's like when you're an editor of a major magazine, sometimes you don't have the capacity for that.
No.
You can be a very generous, compassionate, and supportive editor, but if you've got deadlines the same day, a teenager calling you 50 times a day to ask you questions is there's limits. So, yeah.
Yeah. These days, what does your ideal work day look like? What do you wake up and want to see written in your calendar?
Oh God, ideal. Ideal would probably be one of art or commerce. So commerce, it would be a massive campaign job. That would be absolutely lovely. Preferably in a hot country with a really lovely group of people. Also maybe involve like some moving image as well for a really nice brand, preferably like, I don't know, something like that was going to help people or that was really good fun. And then personal work wise, it would probably be, or actually like shooting a celebrity would be quite fun. I haven't done that in a really long time. So if it was somebody really fun, that's always a bit of a laugh, isn't it? And then, like personal work wise, it would probably be being on a residency somewhere and learning a new skill, being in the darkroom, doing something experimental, collaborating with other practitioners, other academics, and just kind of exploring things that I'm interested about, or being really in a project. I don't know if you get this when you're like just so in a project, like, and you're kind of like, you wake up and you know exactly what you're doing that day, and you're excited to take those shots and meet those people and see that place, and you kind of have a grasp of what the day entails in terms of logistics, but it's going to be unpredictable as hell once it gets going. So
So it sounds like you're very keen still on learning and expanding your horizons. You're not sort of looking for things that are, I know exactly how to do this every day, I'm going to do that.
Absolutely not. No, I think photography is a bit like sort of like, playing an instrument. You want to learn something. You don't want to play the same song all the time.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, just kind of, it's infinite, isn't it? You've never completed it, which is what I kind of like about it. Yeah.
Now, you shoot a lot of film. Is that primarily for your personal work, or do you use that for your commercial work as well?
Yeah, I mean, if I could shoot film and film only, that is what I would do. There's nothing that matches it in terms of the feeling that I get from shooting on analog. It's my favorite kind of process. But unfortunately, the majority of clients want me to shoot digital. So yeah.
So what is the feeling that you get from analog film? What is it about it?
I think for me, it's a departure of, it's going to sound like a strange thing to say, but it being work, it being, there's nothing more boring than organised fun. And I think, digital for me is kind of organised fun. It's like, right, we're going to do this and we're going to see it before we finished. I love the gift of not knowing what it's going to look like and taking that pressure off. And I think that my brain is one that needs kind of boundaries in order to go into a meditative state. I'm very bad at kind of self-discipline to just sit still and do nothing. So, I've definitely been told that when I shoot on film, I go into a very Zen-like state. I don't know why. Maybe it's also that the pressure's off because I know I can't see it.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's kind of just led by the curiosity and just allows me to be very present in the moment and and just really like connect with someone in a kind of very romantic kind of almost spiritual way. I think that process kind of allows a very deep connection that's quite psychological.
It's interesting that you find it that the pressure is off, because I think some people might feel like the pressure is a bit more piled on because you've got, you've only got 36 exposures or maybe, 10 or 12, whatever format you're using. And then, like you say, you can't see the result until you actually get it. But I guess, over time you develop a certain amount of confidence in your exposure and things. But
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's just confidence. I think it's stoicism. I think I'm like, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it is. And it allows you to be more decisive. I quite like having only 10 frames rather than, it's almost like somebody saying you can shoot forever. And I don't want that. I want somebody to say you've got X amount of time or you've got X amount of shots. Because then I'm sort of like, right, now I need to make a decision, as to what those are going to be. Whereas, I think there's nothing worse than a carte blanche brief and infinite amount of time, i.e. no deadline. Just makes my brain go empty.
So you like that additional focus?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, just a bit of structure.
Please excuse this interruption. This episode is brought to you by Seewe, Europe's leading photo printing company, and their hero product, the Seewe Photo Book, that is the proud recipient of the Which Best Buy Award. You know those thousands of photos sitting on your phone or hard drive? With a Seewe Photo Book, you can turn your memories into a beautiful, high-quality album that you'll want to show off. Every page is fully customizable, and you can pick from a range of sizes, finishes, and layouts, designing every detail with their easy-to-use editor or let their smart assistant help. So if you're ready to do something real with your photos, head over to seewe.co.uk. That's cewe.co.uk. Okay, let's get back to the show. And how do you select the topics for your personal projects?
I guess it's a good question. It's sort of like saying, how do you overcome a creative block, isn't it? I think, I guess like I have sort of certain rules, i.e. it has to be universal and everyone should be able to relate to it. I don't really like doing projects where it's sort of so personal that whenever somebody looks at that image, they can't sort of, I guess, kind of go into their own nostalgia or their own story. I like sort of creating sort of human universal connections through the work. And And I think that it opens up more conversations personally for me, because most people are narcissists and quite interested in themselves. So if you make work that they can relate to, they're definitely going to have more of an interest in it.
Yeah.
And I think it's also like then has a power to create an emotion, create empathy, or whatever that emotion may be. So I think for me, yeah, just it has to be universal. And then I guess the second thing is I have to learn something new from it. Has to teach me something. And then I sort of think, can I help anyone with this? Is there a way to kind of use this project to in some way enrich someone's life or people's lives, or ask them questions that we need to ask, or how can my work make the world a better place by making me learn to be a better person, and hopefully kind of inspire some conversations that may provoke some kind of positive change.
Yeah.
I was speaking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about, he's a war photographer, and he said something that just resonated with me so much. He said, whenever I sort of think of shooting horror or shooting things around me that would cause a reaction, I know that actually the thing that I want to capture is love. And I can really relate to that. I think, love is at the heart of what I do, whether that be friendships, whether that be love for ourselves, love for others, family, whatever it is. I think everything is kind of comes back to the idea of love. And I think everyone can relate to that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, that's interesting. And how do you actually approach, you come up with a project or an idea for something that you want to investigate further and photograph, but you always photograph people. So how do you actually approach the individuals that you want to photograph?
It's basically just like differs for each project. So, for example, for some projects, it may be quite logistical in terms of the need to go through an NGO or need to work with like an organization. And that's for several reasons, like to keep the people that I'm working with safe and secure and to feel comfortable, but also to allow some kind of, like structure and collaboration within the process. And then also, for me, if I walk past somebody on the street and I'm like, wow, yeah, I need to connect with them, then it's literally just about asking them. So, and then occasionally it's just people I know already. So it's a real mix of things. But I think like that's one thing that people often kind of negate, which is the really boring like task of like production. I just find production so lame, but it's so necessary.
Yeah.
And I think that's what slows down a lot of projects is funding and production.
Yeah.
Basically.
And do you ever find like, an organization you're working with, an NGO, for example, they might suggest people that you would want to photograph and you meet them and you think, no, this isn't going to work. I need to talk to somebody else.
The organisations that I work with are usually very small, so I completely understand what you're saying. Often, kind of larger NGOs in particular. I mean, sometimes small ones have sort of what we've called case studies, and they'd sort of be people that are used sort of press facing or maybe sort of wanting to always be involved in kind of representing the agenda of the organisation. But I think sort of for me, it's actually about forming a connection with the people that run those NGOs and really understanding kind of how we can come to do a project together that, sort of does more than just a little bit of a PR stunt. So as an example, I reached out to a school nearby and they do 2 hours of boxing during the day for their students who are all from people referral units or kind of, just vulnerable young people. And the agenda is to use the premise of boxing in order to overcome some of their emotional instability and learn kind of like different sort of emotional regulation techniques. And, I knew that going into that school, first of all, the head teacher might have reservations. But secondly, I knew it was going to be really difficult to work with the majority of those young people because they were so vulnerable. And actually, what we what we did is I hung around for quite a series of lessons over a number of months and just got to know the young people. And then it was once they were comfortable with me, it was, okay, who wants to be involved? And then we kind of look at that rather than sort of just going, right, who are the people that we know we can definitely get involved? And then we'll tick those off and then we'll get it done. It's about actually kind of like, really for me, I wanted to understand how that school operates. And kind of how the young people sort of spend their time and get them used to me and allow them to ask as many questions as they can. About kind of what I was doing. And the head teacher was just so supportive. Like, she just really got it, which is testament to why the school is such a success. But yeah, it was kind of that's the way that I prefer to do it rather than rush in like a bulldozer. It's a bit nicer to kind of take your time.
It outlines what you were saying earlier about, projects taking a lot longer than you think about, because there's much more involved than just taking the photographs. It's all that getting to know people and putting them at ease and everything.
Definitely. And for me to understand what I'm doing, I think like often when I start a project, I have no idea what I'm doing. So it takes time for me to figure that out. And so it's kind of the pace is perfect in terms of like, whilst you're getting to know people, you're also figuring out what kind of pictures that you want to produce.
Yeah, what the key messages are.
Yeah, exactly. And, kind of as time progresses, more relationships and connections open up as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. You've had lots of success with awards like the Juliet Margaret Cameron Women in Photography Award and the portfolio category of the Sony World Photography Awards. What do you think are the biggest benefits you've seen as a result of winning those?
I mean, there's so many benefits to them. There's from being in peer exhibitions, getting to celebrate with people and also meet other photographers, to having feedback on your work, both kind of, if you enter the awards and you don't get in, there's, some awards do give you critical feedback, which is so important because, the reason that you enter those awards is to connect with the judges and to get their opinion on your work and to improve your process and kind of learn and grow from it. And also understand kind of how the work is received. Is your message being interpreted completely wildly differently than what you intended? And if so, kind of what form can the project, take shape? And so that's a huge thing. Money is always wonderful when that happens as well. It rarely does, but winning a cash prize can really help, especially, I self-fund all my projects and I shoot all on film. So as you can imagine, that's unbelievably expensive.
Yeah, it all adds up.
It really does. And then also just the exposure as well, and kind of like, sort of feeling a sense of your place within the community. And a lot of the awards that I enter are often abroad as well. So getting to travel to new places and, unfortunately, a lot of the ones that are abroad can't sort of fund your trips out there, which is a shame. But when you do get that opportunity, it's lovely. You get to go to sort of, these wonderful institutions that you might not have ever heard of. And just see kind of there's so much hard work that goes into a lot of those awards as well. Especially the festivals. There's so much work that goes into them. And I think it's also just, something for your confidence. It really, I mean, I've been doing this 21 years now and I still hugely lack confidence in my work and my ability. I pretty much every day wonder if I'm wasting my life and no idea what I'm doing. I know I still love it, but, when you win an award or somebody kind of recognizes your work and connects with it, then it gives you a feeling of kind of like, oh, somebody does kind of understand what I'm trying to do here. And for some, bizarre reason, the moment that I decided to take that picture has really kind of resonated with that person. So yeah, I think that there's benefits, but there's also there's too many competitions out there. It's just exactly, my analogy would be like dating. Like, you've got to get out there to meet somebody. And it's wonderful when you do, and you can have a great time, but you can also get rejected quite a lot. And that can almost kind of dig into your self-esteem more than if you didn't go out there. So, it's about putting yourself out there, being okay with rejection. And, when those little flings and relationships don't work out, taking feedback and trying to learn how to kind of sharpen, be a better human the next time, I guess.
Yeah. The award ceremonies, some are very big, some are quite small, quite intimate, but as well as, it being a nice celebration, I said they're really good networking opportunities. So even if you're not the winner, you're shortlisted or something, it's worth going along to them just to meet people and have, there's all sorts of people go there, it's not the judges or just the judges or the organisers. There's all sorts of people who are there that can be really useful contacts.
100%, and I don't just think it's competitions, private views and openings and exhibitions and talks and festivals, all of these have been so imperative to my career of just getting out and networking and meeting with people. And it can be quite exhausting. And the best thing that I think you can do is go on your own. Don't go with a friend, because if you go with a friend, you won't meet anyone.
Oh, yeah.
I used to always go on my own, and now it's kind of annoying because, you go and then you actually catch up with a friend that you haven't seen for 6 months, which is lovely, but you're like, oh, why didn't we just go out for dinner, But yeah, like, I think, things like Photo London, for example, and things like that, they're networking opportunities. That's what those things are there for. They're there to kind of bring the community together.
Yeah. That's a good tip, actually, about going by yourself, because it is so much more comfortable to go with someone else. But if you go by yourself, you have to kind of make that effort to chat to someone. And often, you do meet new people and go away with a few business cards or, new faces in mind.
100%. And I think you also look at the work more. You go and, the amount of times I've been to an exhibition and then gone home and been like, oh God, I didn't even look at the work. Whereas if you're on your own, that's kind of the first thing you do, because,
yes,
you're like, oh, I'm on my own. What can I do apart from grab a drink, grab a snack and see some work? And so that's quite nice. I quite like that, when you kind of get the opportunity to sort of almost anonymously sort of just walk around and kind of, you're not obliged to sort of converse with anyone. I definitely recommend that.
Okay. Well, I think that's a really good point to go to 6 from SheClicks. I've got 10 questions from SheClickers, and I would like you to answer 6 of them, please, by picking numbers from 1 to 10. So could I have your first number, please?
Sure. Right. Okay. Lucky number. I've got two lucky numbers. So do I get more than one pick?
Oh, you get to pick all 6 numbers, so don't worry. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. 4.
Number 4, if you had a dinner party and could invite any female photographer from any time in history, who would it be and why? That question's from Penny.
Taryn Simon. Thanks, Penny, by the way. Yeah, really just have always admired Taryn Simon. Think her work's really smart and beautiful. And I feel like I've only been to one of her talks. I don't know her well enough. And she just seems very cool to me, basically. And I think she was kind of, yeah, I gave a talk in a uni not that long ago, and I mean, obviously nobody knew who I was, but I couldn't believe that they didn't know who Taryn Simon was, and I was like, she's just a legend. So either her, or if it was like dead or alive, probably Mary-Ellen Mark, or maybe Annie Leibovitz as well. I'm a big fan of Annie.
Me too, yeah. Okay, thank you. Can I have your second number, please?
Number 7.
Number 7. Which of all the projects you've photographed has been the most personal to you and why?
Ooh.
That question's from Janina, I should say.
Hi, Janina. Thanks for your question. It's a very good question. And I, to be honest, I'm going to have a bit of a cop-out here, and I'm going to say I think they're all personal for all different reasons. So I think projects, sorry to be the king of analogies, but projects are like relationships, and I think that they enter your life at certain times for a reason. So I think, for example, the project on Young Love came in because I was sort of reaching the age of 30 and relationships started becoming very serious. And I was like, oh, God, wouldn't it be great to just be 12 again and sort of, not have to worry about anything. Yeah. And actually now I'm returning to that project because it's kind of more it's resonating more than ever. So, and then, Youth Without Age, was such a personal project to me because, I was really realizing how short life was, and somebody close to me died. And then, God, like literally, I think every project that I've done is personal for a reason. So, yeah, I'm going to say they all are.
Okay, I'm going to let you off with that because you did come up with a good analogy, so
Okay,
that's
brilliant.
okay. So, could I have your third number, please?
I'll go 10.
Number 10, what's the most valuable piece of advice you've received in connection with your work? That question's from Liz.
One thing always springs to mind, which is something that Mr. Simon Roberts said to me, which is I was getting really down during COVID. And I was like, oh, I just can't come up with any ideas. I'm not creating any work. I'm behind on everything I, wanted to achieve by now. And he sort of sent me a link to some dude that was just, in his 70s taking pictures in his local town in somewhere like Wales. And nobody knew who he was. And it was just really beautiful, beautiful work. I haven't actually looked at it since, and I should. But the point he was making, he just said, this is why you take pictures, Laura. It's not, for the awards or for the recognition or the publications or exhibitions. He was like, you make work because you love taking pictures and you love telling stories and, you love learning. So just keep doing that. And I was like, yep, thank you for bringing me back down to earth and grounding me. Yeah, I think that was really, really good advice, basically.
Okay. So remember why you do it, basically.
Yeah, and just don't let your self-esteem and your ego get too caught up in your passion.
Okay. All right. So could I have your fourth number, please?
Number 2.
Do you work on one project at a time or several in parallel? That's from Marie-Ange.
Several in parallel. I think a lot of mine are like rolling projects. So they kind of, they're going for over 10 years or whatever. And also a lot of my projects need funding. Sometimes they're just waiting for funding to come through.
And I guess often they're all at different stages as well. So obviously you probably can't shoot more than one at a time, but they're at different stages. So you're trying to find funding for one while you're photographing another, while you're planning another.
Exactly. And they're in different countries as well. So yeah, it's kind of like logistics mean that actually I'd never get anything done if I didn't have several on the go.
Okay. So question number 5, please.
Go 3.
Oh, this is interesting. From several people. What is your favourite camera and film?
God, I hate that question.
We'll go with emulsion then.
Yeah.
Which film stock do you like?
I love Kodak.
Uh-huh.
There you go. That is my kind of go-to Kodak portrait.
Okay, right. Sounds good. And then final number, please.
I'm trying to think what I haven't chosen. Number 1.
What has been your most challenging project to date? Several people asked that.
Again, it's so hard because they've all been challenging for different reasons. So, for example, I think like Young British Naturist was one of the most challenging in terms of like I was very sort of early on in my career and I didn't know how to produce stuff and, just self-funding it all. So that's been really challenging. And then my project on Jewish women has just been challenging in terms of kind of I can never learn enough. And it's also such a sensitive group of people to work with and get access to. And then my projects at the moment that I'm doing with scientists is just so slow moving because nothing ever gets done and the subject's so big that it's almost impossible. So yeah, I think they all basically have challenges for different reasons. I don't think and I think that a project probably wouldn't be worth doing if it didn't have a challenge. If it was easy, I'd probably get bored.
Have you had any projects that you've started the planning for, but logistically it's been so difficult that you just haven't been able to move them forward?
There's been one at the moment where like it's actually that my ideas aren't coming for it. And it's like I know what I want to do it about, but it's almost like I don't know how I want to do it. And that's because it's kind of involved science. So I'm basically sort of being very pragmatic and reaching out to scientists. There's also projects that have like stopped just money. I was doing a project in in the German forest. We've now finally got funding, but it's taken 3 years to get that for me to return back and do that. With the Cape Town work again, like the Sony Awards, you were asking about awards, I managed to kind of, get out there from that award. So it's kind of, it's sort of a chicken and egg, you kind of can't make a project until you've got the funding to do that. So a lot of those kind of, I would say, pauses in projects, are quite frustrating.
Yeah. So you have to be very flexible, really. And like you're saying, because you have several projects going at one time, you've always got something to be getting on with. You're not sort of sat waiting.
Yeah, and if I haven't, so for example, at the moment, one thing that's really frustrating me is I want to work on something new. So it's like, okay, I need to go to the library, I need to sit in the photographer's gallery bookshop and have a chat with people, and I need to be reading and listening and, doing all those things to come up with ideas.
So you actively, I find a lot of ideas come to me while I'm chatting with people, or, I'll be lying in the bath and sort of think things through and they come to me. You actively go out and try to find ideas.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I never just wait for an idea to come. I'm constantly brainstorming. Because I guess not having ideas makes me feel empty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of the time it's also filtering ideas. Like you have all these ideas and it's like, what is worth pursuing?
Yeah. Are you ever sort of thinking, well, I can't do that because it's too similar to something else, or, I want to make it look significantly different?
No, because I think that no matter what you do, nothing is unique, and what makes it unique is how you do it. But there are definitely projects that I've thought of recently where I'm like, I don't think anyone would find that interesting enough, just because it's personal to me. Or like, oh God, so many people have done a project on that already. What can I bring that is different? I don't know if I can. And it's about how much it would sustain my interest as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important for a long project, particularly.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's been really brilliant chatting with you.
It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for listening to this episode of the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Special thanks to everyone who sent in a question. You'll find links to Laura's website and social media channels in the show notes. I'll be back with another episode soon, so please subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast platform and tell all your friends and followers about it. You'll also find SheClicks on Facebook, X, Instagram and YouTube if you search for SheClicksNet. So until next time, enjoy your photography.